This is absolutely earth-shattering, and if you're not freaking out over the most iconic and most explosive reunion in wrestling history, then you clearly missed the Shield. Dean Ambrose, Roman Reigns, and Seth Rollins standing united for the first time in years to declare all-out war on Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed in what might be the most personal and most violent feud WWE has created in the modern era. If you think this is just another faction vs faction storyline, you're dead wrong, because what I'm about to expose proves that the Shield's reformation isn't about nostalgia or cheap pop. This is about three damaged men who've lost everything finding redemption through the only thing that ever truly mattered: brotherhood, and their vow to destroy Breakker and Reed represents a promise that these two rising stars might have just bitten off more than they can chew. Comment right now if you think the Shield reuniting to take down Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed is the most badass moment in WWE this decade, because watching three legends who've been broken, betrayed, and beaten down put aside years of animosity to stand together against two monsters who represent everything wrong with the new generation creates storytelling that's both emotionally resonant and physically threatening. This isn't just the Shield coming back, this is the Hounds of Justice hunting new prey, and Breakker and Reed just became targets of the most dangerous trio in WWE history. The declaration of war was brutal and the coming violence will be legendary. Let me break down exactly how this reunion happened, because every single moment was perfectly executed to maximize emotional impact while setting up what promises to be the most brutal warfare WWE has seen in years. It started with Roman Reigns being attacked again by Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed on Raw, the two monsters continuing their campaign of terror against anyone they perceive as old guard, holding them back from their rightful positions at the top of WWE. Roman was already beaten down, already isolated, already at his lowest point after losing his championship, his faction, and his status. Breakker and Reed were delivering what seemed like the final humiliation, another beatdown of the fallen tribal chief that would cement their dominance and Roman's irrelevance. Reed was positioning for another tsunami splash that could have legitimately ended Roman's career when suddenly the arena went dark and the most iconic sound in wrestling history echoed through the speakers. The Shield's theme music hit, and the crowd absolutely erupted because they knew that something historic was about to happen. When the lights came back on, Dean Ambrose was standing on one side of the ring and Seth Rollins on the other, both in tactical vests, both with that familiar intensity that made the Shield legendary, both staring down Breakker and Reed with expressions that promised violence. Here's a trivia question for Shield fans: in what year did the Shield make their WWE debut? Drop your answer in the comments. But the most powerful moment came when Roman, bloodied and barely able to stand, looked up and saw his former brothers flanking him. The emotion on Roman's face, shock, gratitude, hope, and something that looked like relief, was raw and real in ways that transcended performance. These three men have hurt each other, betrayed each other, fought each other for years, but in that moment, none of that mattered because they were brothers again. Dean spoke first, grabbing a microphone. Bronson, you two have been running around WWE acting like tough guys, beating up people when they're down, thinking you're the future of this business. Well, let me tell you something about the future: it doesn't mean shit if you don't respect the past. And you two have disrespected not just Roman, not just the legends who came before you, but you've disrespected what it means to be a warrior in this business. Seth continued the promo, his voice carrying that edge of controlled rage that makes him so compelling. You think you're monsters? You think you're unstoppable? You haven't faced real monsters yet. You haven't faced men who've been to hell and back, who've destroyed each other and rebuilt themselves, who know exactly what it takes to survive in WWE's most brutal wars. Well, congratulations, you're about to get an education. Drop a comment: is the Shield's reunion the most emotional moment in WWE this year? Let me know if you felt something watching these three unite again. Roman, helped to his feet by Dean and Seth, grabbed the microphone and delivered what might be the most powerful promo of his career. I've been broken, betrayed, beaten. I lost everything: my title, my family, my empire. But you know what I didn't lose? The bond with these two men. The brotherhood we formed over a decade ago. The knowledge that when everything else falls apart, when the whole world turns against you, there are still people who will stand beside you. Dean, Seth, I'm sorry for everything I did. Every manipulation, every betrayal, every moment I put myself before us. But if you'll have me, if you'll fight beside me one more time, I promise I'll be the brother you deserve. The vulnerability Roman showed, admitting his mistakes and asking for forgiveness publicly, was stunning character development. The tribal chief who demanded acknowledgement was gone, replaced by a man who understood that earning respect is more important than demanding it. Dean and Seth's response was simple but profound. They extended their fists for the Shield's signature pose, and Roman joined them, reforming the triangle that defined a generation. The three men then turned their attention to Breakker and Reed, and what followed was the declaration of war that has everyone talking. They didn't just promise to beat them, they promised to destroy them, to make examples of them, to show the entire WWE roster what happens when you disrespect legends and act like bullies. Quick question: what was the Shield's signature triple team finishing move called? Show me you know your Shield history. But Breakker and Reed didn't back down. Bron grabbed a microphone and showed no fear. You three want to talk about brotherhood? About legacy? About respect? I'm a Steiner. I come from wrestling royalty. I don't need to learn respect from three guys who've spent the last decade betraying each other. And Bronson? He's the most dangerous man in WWE today. So bring your little reunion tour. Bring your tactical vests and your nostalgia. Because we're going to do what nobody else could do, we're going to break the Shield permanently. Reed added his own threat at Crown Jewel, you three got lucky. But you've just made the biggest mistake of your lives. You've declared war on two men who have nothing to lose and everything to prove. You're old. You're broken. You're desperate. And we're hungry. We're violent. And we're going to feast on the legends of yesterday to build our legacy. The Shield is dead. You three are just too stupid to realize you're already extinct. The confrontation didn't lead to an immediate brawl, instead, both sides backed away, creating tension and anticipation for the inevitable collision. WWE announced that the Shield vs. Breakker and Reed would happen at the next Premium Live event in a tornado tag match, no rules, no tags required, just 6 men in the ring at once with permission to cause maximum carnage. Tell me in the comments, in a tornado tag match, who has the advantage, the Shield's experience and chemistry, or Breakker and Reed's youth and size? Give me your analysis. The backstage reaction to the Shield's reunion was overwhelming. Wrestlers from every era were talking about it, sharing their thoughts on social media, acknowledging the significance of these three men putting aside their differences for a common cause. Even competitors like Cody Rhodes and other top stars expressed respect for what the Shield represents and excitement about seeing them together again. The historical significance cannot be overstated. The Shield defined an era of WWE. They revolutionized how factions operate, how debuts are handled, how young talent is presented. Their matches set new standards for intensity and storytelling. Their breakup created shockwaves that are still being felt years later. And now, their reunion, not for nostalgia but for purpose, creates a full-circle moment that's both satisfying and compelling. The psychology behind why this reunion works is fascinating. Dean has been away from WWE, living as Jon Moxley and finding success on his own terms, but he came back because he recognized that some bonds transcend business. Brotherhood is more important than ego. Seth needed redemption after being betrayed by his own visionaries and Paul Heyman, and reclaiming his Shield identity offers that path. Roman needed to remember who he was before the tribal chief persona consumed him, and the Shield represents his purest, most authentic self. The contrast between the Shield and their opponents is perfect for storytelling. The Shield represents earned respect, brotherhood forged through shared struggle, and legacy built through excellence. Breakker and Reed represent entitlement, bullying, and trying to take shortcuts to the top by destroying rather than building. The philosophical conflict makes their physical conflict even more meaningful. What's your prediction? Will the Shield win their first match back together, or will Breakker and Reed shock the world by defeating the reunited legends? Give me your call. The potential for this feud to expand is enormous. Other young wrestlers might align with Breakker and Reed, seeing them as representing the future. Other legends might align with the Shield, creating a full-scale war between generations. The possibilities for 6-man tags, multi-man matches, and even Survivor Series-style elimination matches are endless, and all of them are compelling. The merchandise opportunities are massive. New Shield gear acknowledging this reunion. Justice never dies, catchphrases referencing their return. Commemorative items celebrating this historic moment. WWE's merchandising team should be working overtime because fans are desperate to show their support for this reunion through purchases. The match itself promises to be brutal. Tornado tag rules mean all 6 men can be in the ring at once, which means chaos. The Shield's experience working as a unit gives them an advantage, but Breakker and Reed's size and power create legitimate threats. The combination of styles, the Shield's coordinated precision versus the Monster's overwhelming force, creates a compelling dynamic that should produce an instant classic. The emotional stakes are sky high. This is potentially the Shield's last run together. All 3 men are in different stages of their careers, with Roman and Seth dealing with the aftermath of recent failures and Dean having succeeded elsewhere, potentially looking at this as a farewell tour. The knowledge that this might be the last time creates urgency and makes every moment matter. Here's a strategic question: if you were booking the Shield's reunion run, how long should it last? Months? Years? One match? What's the perfect length? The promos leading up to their match are going to be incredible. Imagine Dean, Seth, and Roman having 3-way conversations where they address their history, their pain, their growth, and their renewed bond. Imagine Breakker and Reed cutting promos about destroying nostalgia and building the future on the Shield's graves. The verbal warfare will be just as compelling as the physical warfare. The social media reaction has been nuclear. Wrestling Twitter exploded with celebration and excitement. The hashtag Shield reunion trend worldwide for hours. Video packages of their greatest moments together have been getting millions of views. Fan art depicting them in their vests has flooded every platform. This is organic, genuine excitement that money can't buy. The comparison to other legendary faction reunions is inevitable. How does this compare to DX's reunions? Evolution getting back together? The Four Horsemen's various reformations? The Shield reunion feels more earned because of how much pain and growth all three men have experienced individually. This isn't just nostalgia, it's evolution. The mainstream media attention is growing. Sports outlets are covering this story because the Shield's return is legitimately newsworthy. These are three of WWE's biggest stars of the past decade reuniting for what might be their final battle together. That narrative appeals to audiences beyond just wrestling fans. Tell me your honest take, should the Shield be undefeated in this reunion run to protect their legacy, or should they eventually lose to pass the torch to the new generation? What's better storytelling? The potential for individual moments within the match is staggering. Imagine the Shield hitting their triple powerbomb on Reed or Breakker. Imagine the three-way teamwork and coordination that made them famous. Imagine one of them making a sacrifice play to save the others. Every possible scenario creates emotion and impact. The championship implications are interesting. Should the Shield pursue titles as a unit? Should they help each other win singles gold? Or should they stay focused solely on destroying Breakker and Reed as a matter of principle rather than championship glory? Each direction creates different storytelling opportunities. One final question: if the Shield defeats Breakker and Reed decisively, who should be their next opponents? Another young team trying to make their name? A rival legendary faction? Give me your dream booking. The legacy implications for all five men, including Dean, Roman, Seth, Breakker, and Reed, are profound. The Shield's legacy gets a potentially perfect ending where they go out on top, together, having defeated the future. Or they pass the torch properly, putting over the new generation while maintaining their dignity. For Breakker and Reed, defeating the Shield would instantly make them legends and give them credibility they couldn't buy otherwise. Now I want to hear from you, the Wrestling Newsletter family. Tell me in the comments. Are you emotional about the Shield reuniting? Will the Shield defeat Breakker and Reed? How long should this reunion last? Is this the greatest faction return ever? Should other Shield reunions happen in the future? Who has the most to gain from this feud? Smash that like button if the Shield's reunion gave you chills and reminded you why you love wrestling. Destroy that like button if you're hyped for the war between the Shield and Breakker/Reed. We need maximum engagement. Subscribe to Wrestling Newsletter because we're covering every moment of the Shield's reunion run and their war with the new generation. Share this video with every wrestling fan because the Shield declaring war on Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed is the most epic storyline WWE has created in years. The Hounds of Justice are back. Brotherhood has been restored. War has been declared. And Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed just learned that some legends never die, they just reload and come back stronger. This is the kind of emotionally powerful, perfectly executed storytelling that reminds us why the Shield was special and why their bond transcends individual success. Believe in the Shield.